Great. So we are live and I see the audience trickling in. We already have around 25 people in this room. I'm going to wait for a minute for everyone to connect. In the meanwhile, those of you who have been able to join and have connected their audio, if you're able to hear me, just in the chat window, type the city you're dialing in from. It's always great for us to know where our audience is coming from. This is also an audio and it's also audio check. So please let us know the city you're dialing in from. Okay, I see the responses coming in. I see Chaitanya from Vijayawada. Great. I I would believe that audio for a lot of other people is still connecting, so I'm going to repeat this. Those of you who have been able to connect, let us know the city you're dialing in from. Great, I see the responses coming in now. So Mohan from Bangalore, I see someone from London, I see someone from Karachi, Pakistan, someone from Ajmer in India, Surat, Patna. Keep those responses coming in. It's always great to see where the audience is coming from. I see Mumbai, Bikaner, Reva from Mumbai as well. I see someone dialing in from Ghana, uh, someone from a lot of people from Mumbai. I see someone dialing in from Nigeria, Vijayawada, Mumbai, so on and so forth. Chhattisgarh as well. Great. So welcome everyone. Thank you for being on time. Thank you for being so punctual. We already have over 100 people in this room, but I still want to give others who are running late a moment to connect before we go on with our very interesting topic. So keep those responses coming in. Today's topic is extremely interesting. We are talking about the world of sports betting. And of course, people in India and I'm sure around the world know this, that the Cricket World Cup just got over this weekend. Those of you who track this, possibly billions of dollars were bet on this particular Cricket World Cup across matches, predicting basically every aspect of the game that can be there. So this is an extremely exciting topic that we are going to discuss today. We are going to talk about the world of sports betting. So stay put with us. Keep those responses coming in the chat. Let us know the city you're dialing in from, especially people dialing in from outside of India. Let us know where you're dialing in from. It's always great to see the variety and spread of our audience. I'm just going to give this another 20, 30 seconds. Just, I'm sorry to keep those who are already in the room waiting. We want to make sure that no one misses out on this extremely interesting topic. So just taking a minute for everyone to connect before we can go live with this particular session. Great. So I see some more responses, some more people from Vijayawada, Bangalore, Ghana. Welcome, Frederick. Welcome, Vidashri. Welcome, Sagarika, all of you. Great. With that, let me kickstart the introduction. So my name is Sanjay Dhingra. I'm a co-founder and chief operating officer at Seed Global Education. Those of you who are aware or who have attended our masterclasses or events in the past, you would know what exactly we do. We facilitate interactions between aspirants like yourself, people like you who are looking to study at top tier universities outside of India, outside of Africa, to connect with leading universities in North America, Europe, rest of Asia, and around the world. Today's session is extremely interesting. We are speaking to St. John's University, their Peter J. Tobin School of Business. I have Dr. Jason Berkowitz, who is a professor over there, and I have Marissa Alperin, who works with their admissions team with me on today's session. Uh, Sorry, I'm going to spotlight myself for a second, get more face time over there. Great. So today's session is extremely interesting. Before we go dig more into this detail, and I'm going to do a more detailed introduction for Jason and Marissa, what I want to do is run our first poll for the evening. So the poll is live on the screen right now. If you can see the poll, the question is, which finance-related career path are you most interested in? It is possible that you may not be interested in a career in finance. That's all right. But if you have a preference, if you're interested in a particular field, then let us know which finance-related career path appeals to you the most. Great. I see the responses coming in. We have more than 150 people, in fact, more than 170 people in this room. So I'll surely expect at least 75, 80 of them to respond. So please do respond to this particular poll question, which is around which finance-related career path appeals to you most. Great. So while those responses are coming in, just an overview for those who want to know this, who have already responded to the poll. By attending today's session, you have become eligible for certain scholarships as well. St. John's University has instituted three full scholarships. That's what I understand. Marissa, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are three scholarships up to 100% of the tuition fee available for the master's and MBA program offered by St. John's University's Peter J. Tobin College of Business. Attendees of this session possibly also become eligible for an application fee waiver, right, Marissa? Great. So you've also become eligible for an application fee waiver to St. John's. You've also become eligible for special scholarships, which are offered through the Seed Scholarships Fund. I'm going to share more details about this during the course of our session today. but we will talk about that shortly. But with that, let me end the poll now and share the results on the screen. So those of you who are looking at a career in finance, a lot of you are looking at investment analysis, followed by risk management, financial planning, corporate finance, financial consulting, and lastly, asset management. Great. So that's a great insight into the profile of the audience that are with us in this room today. With that, let me get into the introduction of today's topic. As I was mentioning, sports betting is a multi-billion-dollar industry worldwide. Those of you who track this industry, there are, sports betting is over $100 billion plus globally. And if you look at just cricket betting in India, that itself is $2 billion plus. So you can imagine the amount of money changing hands or being transacted through the sports betting industry. It's massive, it's humongous, possibly amongst the largest industries in the world as well. Of course, illegal in a lot of countries as well. Our today's speaker is Dr. Jason Berkowitz, who is an assistant professor of finance at St. John's University. His research and teaching interests are focused in the area of investments. His additional interests lie in the unique applications of sports data, such as sports betting markets, as a proxy for understanding financial markets and outcomes, where real-world financial data is difficult to acquire. Between getting his degrees, Dr. Berkowitz worked in the sports industry as a director of finance for Wilmington Blue Dogs. It's a sports team in USA. In addition, he's also been a manager and controller for the concessionaire at several major sports stadiums, including the Lincoln Financial Field, RFK Stadium, and the Verizon Center as well. Uh, Dr. Berkowitz received his bachelor's in business administration and master's of science in finance from the George Washington University, as well as his PhD from University of North Carolina, the Charlotte School over there. University of North Carolina, Charlotte. Okay, great. With that, let me hand you over to Dr. Berkowitz to take us through his extremely interesting presentation on the world of sports betting. We are going to unravel a lot of myths, a lot of interesting aspects about the industry, and then we are going to speak with Marissa about St. John's University and how you can secure those application fee waivers and special scholarships which St. John has on offer for today's session. With that, over to you, Dr. Jason.
Thank you. So I'm going to start off with a little overview. I take it many of you, I'm not obviously sure how familiar many of you are with sports betting. So the best way to do this is probably just to have a relatively basic introduction, and we can kind of go from there. 1 second. Why can't I'm just trying to share. Give me a second. So full screen. So I know many of you are potentially interested in sports betting, and many of you are interested in finance. So a large amount of my research really overlaps both of these areas. I'm definitely not what you would consider your traditional finance professor's research. A lot of my research, as I mentioned, is in the sports betting market. And the reason for this is there are a lot of similarities, and most people, don't really realize it, but the betting market is another financial market, right? Information flows in and out as different teams get, information about injuries or starting rosters. All this information impacts the lines that are being offered, right? There's also, as already mentioned, a large amount of money is involved in this, right? We are talking about billions of dollars on many games. Even on specific games, we get into the billions. And it's important to realize that there's people who do make a living doing this, right? It's just like people day trade on the market. There are professionals that are looking there for what they think are mispriced lines, right? Or lines that are slightly skewed. And they're basically looking to exploit these betting lines that are being mispriced. And now we see more and more lines being offered, right? It was not just on the individual outcome of the game, but on players' productivity during the game is becoming more and more common. And the ability to combine these bets into larger parlays is becoming more and more popular. So these bets, also similar to stocks and everything, have their initial offering when the price is first listed. And we can also see the ability to diversify across the assets, right? So people have the opportunity to invest and basically diversify their portfolio across different bets, right? So typically we look at market efficiency in the financial markets and see if there's ways to exploit inefficiencies. And this is something that I look at in the betting markets. So are there anomalies that occur, right? There's basic strategies of taking favorites or taking the underdog or taking the home team, right? There's also much more complicated strategies. But the important thing when we look at the efficiency of the market, because we do have, especially compared to financial markets, relatively high transaction costs. Even though they're not that high, they're still higher than many of our financial markets today. So a common thing that's discussed is efficiency within transaction costs in this market. And then just to summarize before I get into it all is the betting markets are very similar to derivative markets. For those of you that are familiar with it, derivative markets are pretty much a zero-sum game, that there is one person that's expecting an outcome and they bet or they take a position that this X will happen. And the other person on the other side is going to say that X won't happen, right? Just like a sports bet where the bookmaker is taking a side and the bettor is taking the other side. And just like in derivatives, at the end, we actually get to see what happens. The game's played out and we see which side wins. So there are many types of betting worldwide. We have pari-mutuel betting, which in the United States, so my slides are based off of the United States. So I know many of you are international, so forgive me for that. But pari-mutuel in the United States is very common in horse racing. With pari-mutuel betting, you actually make your bet, and at the end, when the book closes, you actually find out your odds. Here in the United States, we have horse racing where people are betting and you're being told what the line roughly is at this time. But until all the money's pooled out or put in and everyone bets on all the teams, only then do you know what your payout actually will be. Where we have fixed odds is one of the more common ones, where it's basically constant. You are locking in the bet that you have immediately, right? I'm betting, right now in the United States, football, American football, for many of you, is the big sport going on. So a lot of people are betting about, making the playoffs or the Super Bowl and which team will win there. So if I were to make a bet on the New England Patriots to win the Super Bowl, I'm locking that in now, right? Or if I'm betting for the Patriots to win their game on Sunday, fixed odds basically lock in your bet. And then we also have an exchange has become more and more popular. This has really become more popular outside the United States, that individuals are actually able to bet with each other. And it's done through the exchange, where you don't know the other party and you don't need to know the other party because the exchange is helping to meet the obligations. So again, betting in the United States is similar to other countries. Some of our betting lines might slightly deviate from lines in the country where you live. But here in the United States, we have what we consider three major types of sports betting, or different lines on a game. So the first line is the sideline, which is basically betting on the underdog or favorite to win by a specified amount of points. So the idea here is that one team is going to be favored and the other team is an underdog. If one team is favored, then it works out to be the case that favorite team, it's not fair to say that team will win, right? It's not going to be equal odds that team would win versus the underdog. So the sideline is put that the favorite has to win by X points. So if the team wins by X points, then it works out that if you bet on the favorite, your bet will win. And if they don't win by that many points, or they end up losing, then the bet on the favorite will lose. And exact opposite for the underdog. The underdog wins if the underdog wins, or if the underdog loses by less points than were given in the spread. And of course, the underdog bet loses if the favorite wins by more than those points that were provided. So in the US markets, it's also very common that we traditionally post these lines on what we call minus 110 betting line. So minus 110 implies that you have to bet $110 to win 100, right? And if the odds are roughly that you are going to win 50% of the time, you can see that on average, betting is a bad strategy for investing, right? On average, you're going to lose. You have to do better than 50% to make off as a winner. And this is pretty much the case worldwide, right? That on average, you betting is not a good investment strategy, right? Because you have a relatively high VIG, or what we call cost, right? The bookmaker needs to make their money. So in the United States, we call this the VIG. It's the commission basically that goes to the bookmaker by not making it an even 100 for 100 bet, right? So the total line then is a combination of team scoring. So the sideline was about who wins and by how much. The total line in the United States is very common in the fact that we look at the combined scores of the two teams. What's the total amount of score? And of course, there is a line that is specified as X again. And if you bet what we call the over is expecting that you are going to have a team score, the two teams combined to score more than X, right? And the under is betting that they will score less than X. Then our last line here in the US, it's most common, which is pretty common across the world, is our money line. Money line is just betting on which team is going to win regardless. So in the United States, we quote in what we consider negative and positive values. So the numbers are always quoted as a negative if they are favored, and positive if they're an underdog. So the implication is the negative number is how much you have to bet to win $100 plus your original bet back. And the positive number is if you bet 100, that is how much you win plus the $100 back. I know for some of you that are international, this might sound a little confusing. The money line is very commonly converted internationally into what we call the decimal system. So it might be 4-1, or it might just be listed as 3. So you know it's 3-1 and you get your dollar back. Sometimes it's listed as 4-1 and you get the $4 as your winnings, depending on how it's quoted. Of course, in the US, most of our sports, we don't like ties. So we don't have tying as usually an option. Only very rarely do we get ties in certain sports here in the United States. The interesting thing is now looking at line offering and the information flow, right? To the typical, I call it layman bettor, they don't really see the whole picture, right? Well, the interesting thing is the sideline is the favorite minus the underdog's points equals the sideline. And the total line is the favorite points scored plus the underdog's points scored is the total line. So by knowing that it's basically favorite minus U, right? F minus U equals the sideline, and the total line is F plus U equals the total line. Well, since the sideline and the total line are given and F and U are unknown, we have two equations with two unknowns. We can rearrange it and solve. And we actually can find out that the expected score for the underdog is simply the sideline. Oh, sorry, that should be flipped. My apologies. It should be the total line minus the sideline divided by 2. And the sideline plus the total line divided by 2 is the favorite score. So let me just quickly show you. I don't know if I can. I'm trying to remember. I think it's, yeah, unfortunately,
Jason, you're not audible. I think your audio is gone off. Not yet.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay. I'm going to try to see if I can move back the 15 feet back to where I was. You
Sure.
still hear me?
Yes, loud and
All
clear.
right. Perfect. Sorry about that. I don't know what happens. All right. So I'm not sure where you guys lost me, but um, right. So with the score for the sideline and the total line, by knowing both of these lines, we can actually see what the expected score for the favorite and the underdog are. Um, so as a result, it's very nice that we can actually see that this information flow, right? The market actually is revealing information that would otherwise not be available to individuals by knowing now what the expected score for the favorite and the underdog is. Similarly, for money lines, we can use the money lines and convert them into probabilities. I show this with the money lines being offered in the U.S. Um, you can also find the equation very easily if it's written in decimal or European approach, whether it's listed as 4 or 3-1, it can easily, as well be converted. It doesn't matter the approach of how it's being quoted, but because the money line in the United States is positive in the US on a $100 basis, and the favorite is negative with a $100 basis payout, um, I can convert into probabilities the probability of the underdog winning and the probability of the favorite winning. Right? I take the absolute value of the favorite because remember it's a negative value. There are rare cases where the money line for the underdog, if it's a very close game, is negative, and in which that case the equation will still be the exact same as the favorite's equation because the money line is negative. But with that said, these two lines actually work out. If you add them together, these two will look like probabilities are not actually probabilities because they sum to greater than 1. And the reason for this is because they're not fair odds, right? The bookmaker is charging a fee. And as a result, we have to normalize these two betting lines, these two probabilities to get what we call a true probability. So P star, subscript U, and subscript F are actually the true probabilities. So while these equations might look a little confusing to you, I think it's probably best to use an example, and I'll get to that in a moment. The one thing I want to show you is here in the United States, right, we have the sideline, the spread, and the favorite. I converted the money line into the probability so that we could see the probability of the team winning versus the sideline here. So here, this data is college basketball. Here in the United States, college basketball is very popular. We do have at the end of the year, it's called March Madness. If you've ever heard about it, it's a very big tournament. It occurs in March. Why March is my favorite favorite month in the year is because of March Madness. But the interesting thing is, and this was actually part of my dissertation topic, was that this should be a linear relationship, right? For every point that the favorite is favored by, the probability of that team winning should also increase by the same amount, right? There's no in basketball special numbers, right? In basketball, we can score a point either by a free throw is 1, by shooting a shot within the 3-point range is going to be 2. And then if you're outside the 3-point range, then it's a 3-point shot. So you can score by 1, 2, or 3. Unlike in American football, where we have, 3 and 7 are very common numbers in there. So each number isn't always equal. But in basketball, it works out that the numbers are fairly equal. And there's no significance between the difference between winning by 5 points or winning by 6 or by 7. The number is rather constant, the amount that you should win by, or the amount of the probability that the favorite should win by should increase by a constant amount for every point that they're favored. And here you can see that this relationship actually works out to be linear until about right around 11 points. Right around here is where this relationship starts to break down. And because of that, we get that this relationship kind of falls apart. And it becomes very interesting that every point isn't going to then equal an additional amount to the winning probability. So it's a very unusual phenomenon that is still being looked at and trying to address why something like this would actually occur. Because we also see towards the end, it flattens off and there becomes this other linear relationship later on up at the top that is showing that the relationship almost comes right back together. Obviously, it's not the same proportion or increase in probability, but it is still a constant. Right. So this, again, is a discussion about the information flow, which is very important. The VIG here, like in financial markets, right? There's a transaction cost, and here in the United States, it's commonly about 5%. In other cases, it can get lower. So, especially now in the United States, we've had much more legalization of sports betting, right? And the rest of the world, you guys can sports bet all you want until about I think it was 2018. Might have been a little before that, 2017. There was only legal betting in 4 of the 50 states. And only 2 of the states really were allowing betting to occur. Since then, there's been a change in the laws, and now it's become legal in a lot more states. And we see a lot more lines being offered, and as a result, a lot more competition on different bookmakers. And we now see that the lines aren't always being 5% for the commission; it is getting lower because of the competition. So within this whole discussion of betting markets, though, it's important to discuss that bookmakers' strategies and how do they make their money, right? Well, the original concept or discussion of this is in the US, right? We have this negative 110 to win 100, right? We can simplify that down to you bet 11 to win 10, right? If I have 11 people, if I have someone bet $11 on one side and another person bets $11 on the other side, well, whoever wins gets $10 plus their $11 back. So they're going to get $21 of the $22 in the pot, right? $11 and $11 bet on each side. There's $22 in the pot. The winner gets their $11 back plus $10. They get $21. The bookmaker gets to keep $1. That's their profit, right? So there's been questions of what is the bookmaker's strategy? And many people argue that the bookmaker wants to balance his book or her book. And this means that we want to have the same amount of money on both sides. Well, that works out well as long as we have balanced lines, right? That both lines are paying out the same. If the lines are skewed, well, we want it to be balanced, but in the skewed way that the book is balanced as well, or the line is being balanced. So either way, this balanced book is trying to argue that they're basically trying to make like what we would consider a risk-free profit, right? And others have argued that they're not trying to make a risk-free profit. They offer the line with more information than anybody else, and they exploit the bettor's biases. And as a result, they're going to earn a higher amount of money than the risk-free rate because they're taking advantage of the information that's going on through the process. So the next thing I just want to point out, it's kind of interesting, and you can see in many markets, it's something that's been discussed recently. The expected return versus the money line that's being the expected return from the money line, which we already talked about earlier, versus the spread. So the higher the spread, the more likely we know who's going to win, right? And this is of course basketball. My data as well, again, I should note. So it's all college basketball data. So here, the bigger the spread, right, the more likely the favorite is to win, which means when you bet on the money line, if the favorite wins or the underdog wins, well, there's much more certainty of what's going to happen at these higher spreads. And what do we see happens with the expected return? Well, the expected return gets in theory, higher or closer to zero, because remember, your expected return is negative, which also means if you look at it, your expected return is negative while the bookmaker's expected return is positive, right? So they have a higher expected return when the game is supposed to be close. They get less money as the spread moves further out, right? If I have, for example, in the United States, we have someone like Duke, which is one of the best basketball teams in the country, plays close by. There's Appalachian State in North Carolina, which is a relatively small basketball school. And as a result, Duke plays them, they're going to win 99 of 100 games, probably more than that. So as a result, there's not much uncertainty and there's not much risk involved, which means that the expected risk that's being taken by the bookmaker is less. And this is why they're charging a lower commission, right? As a result of a lower commission, they hold on one second, sorry. Thank you. Sorry, my daughter had to tell me my door's open. Sorry about that. So the lower the commission, the less commission they earn is because they're taking on less risk, right? The more uncertainty there is when the game is only favored by 2 or 3 points, there's going to be much more risk for the bookmaker. And as a result, they are going to charge a higher commission, right? We don't know who's actually going to win. And they're taking more risk by offering the lines when the game is very close than if the game is significantly going to be a blowout and we kind of know with certainty who's going to win. Well, as a result, they don't take on as much risk and they don't, as a result, get as much money. So now kind of looking at an overall example, of course, I take an example with St. John's University. And we played, I took an old example. So this game is from November 23rd, 2017. So almost 6 years ago. And we have St. John's playing Oklahoma State. So from the game, you can see I have here what we call opening lines and closing lines. So for these games, lines are only offered pretty much more often the day of. So the line opens in the morning and it closes at tip-off. So here you can see that St. John's was favored by 4.5 points to start the game, to start the offering. And the closing line is that St. John's is favored by 5.5 points. So again, they both have the -110 bet. And we also have the total points scored was 152 to open the line and 151 was the closing. We don't see a large amount of movement because, right, if the line moves a lot, that means we had a large amount of error in the offering. And that's not very good. And the bookmaker is going to get exploited for that. So we have here the over and the under instead of St. John's and Oklahoma State because the total line, remember, is a combination of their two scores. So the over is the U, the under is the over is the O, the under is the U. My apologies. And then we have the pure money lines for both teams, right? So if you bet on St. John's to win the game to start off, well, you had to bet $225 to win 100. Where if you bet Oklahoma to win the game to start, it was 185. Sorry, when the line opened. When the line closed, Oklahoma was plus 200, right? You bet $100 and you won $200 plus your initial bet back. For St. John's, you had to bet 240 to win the $100 plus your initial bet back, right? So this information kind of reveals additional information to us. And of course, as I said, I can calculate the scores of both teams, right? It works out that St. John's was supposed to score 78 points and Oklahoma State was supposed to score 72.5 points, right? And you can see here, I convert our probabilities as I had in the previous slides so that we can see that St. John's is expected to win this game with a 58% chance of winning the game, where Oklahoma State's supposed to win this game with about a 32% chance. So the interesting thing here too that has become more commonly discussed in the US markets are our sideline and our total lines. If they are even numbers or exact numbers, right? If it was 150 and 5, as the sideline and the total line, well, you can have what we call draws, right? Where means the money, there's no winner or loser. The money goes back and it's a tie, right? Because it was exactly on the line. The problem is for a bookmaker, that's a terrible thing because they spent all this time and effort putting together all this information and they get nothing. All the money goes back. So they like having the 0.5 because you can't actually get a 0.5 in the score. You have to score by whole numbers. So this is why they like having the 0.5 on the line, where the bettors don't like having 0.5 because they want to have the draw opportunity. So in this case, St. John's actually scored 82 points in this game, and Oklahoma State scored 77. Right? That's pretty close to the expected scores in the market. Sometimes it works out that they're very accurate, other times not so much. Just like in many other financial markets, you might take a position and sometimes you're really right and sometimes you absolutely missed it, right? No one's perfect. The market's not perfect either. But on average, they do very well in these markets. So the yellow is highlighted here to indicate who would have won. Right? St. John's actually won the game by 5 points, which is interesting because the line started at 4.5 and ended at 5.5. Right? So if you bet St. John's early and then the line moved to 5.5, you got St. John's at 4.5, you would have won. If you bet Oklahoma at the end at the 5.5, well, then you would have won with Oklahoma. Right? The total line here, we can see this, the total was 159. The over wins because it was more than 151. And St. John's won outright. So the St. John's money line bet also wins at the minus 240. I should note, because I haven't really mentioned it, as I said, that everything's based off of the minus 110 to win 100, or minus, in this case, the 240 on the money line to win 100. Everything is scalable, right? I can bet $24 to win $10 on the St. John's game, for St. John's to win, or I can bet $12 to win $5. In the US, it is completely scalable. You don't have to bet the full amount. You can bet fraction and you get a fraction of the $100 as your payout. Then we have more popular bets that have become more commonplace, as I mentioned, about winning the Super Bowl or playing in tournaments and selecting the championships. You guys had cricket recently, right? Future bets is picking who's going to win it all, right? It's the only thing that matters is who's the champion, right? It doesn't matter how the champion gets there. It's which team or which country is going to win it all. Proposition bets are wagers on outcomes that in some cases do not directly affect the score of the game. In some cases, they affect the score of the game, but they're not directly affecting them, right? So prop bets might be betting on certain people to score a goal, right? A certain player will score a goal, or that a certain player is going to end up in US football, we talk about players getting so much yardage or receptions. In baseball, we talk about hits. In basketball, it's about points, assists, maybe rebounds, and a combination of them. And parlay is combining bets to get larger payouts. While this is appealing to many people, parlays are considered one of the worst bets because their payouts deteriorate. And we'll get to that in a minute. So here I took an example of the Super Bowl in 2017 and different prop bets, right? So some of these bets are completely irrelevant to the game, right? So there's a bet every year on the Super Bowl in the United States, the national anthem, and how long it's going to take that individual to sing that national anthem. Then there's things like Lady Gaga was the halftime show, what was going to be her first song that she would sing, what liquid, they say liquid because it's not always Gatorade anymore, but in the end, when the Super Bowl champions win, they pour the Gatorade on the coach, and the question is what color will that Gatorade be, right? There's a bunch of different prop bets that can occur. Some of them are also related to the sports outcome. Some are completely unrelated, as you can see here. So then when we talk about parlays, it's very common that you usually start parlays at about 3 bets. And if we assume that they're all negative 110 or a probability of about 50% occurring, right, on a 3 parlay bet, your probability of winning that is 1 out of 8, right? And as a result, your payout should be $8 for every dollar you bet. Where what we actually see being offered is something around $6.50. Right, so there's a significant difference on the amount of money that you would earn in a fair bet versus what you actually get paid out. So you can see here, I've done it all the way up to about 15 is the most common. For the highest that you can have, it depends on certain places and certain countries or states of where you are and what the lines are. But you can see your probability of actually winning these outcomes relative to the payout. The payout is extremely smaller than what you actually are going to get because the bookmaker wants to make a profit, right? He needs to be able to, he or she need to make a profit. So I discussed here a little bit of the research that has been done a lot in the early 80s and 90s, really looked to see how accurate are line movements. And it's been shown that line movements are actually very informative and lead to more accurate outcomes, that the closing line that's offered at the end of right when the game starts relative to what's open is more accurate from the closing line relative to the opening line to the actual game outcomes. So a lot of this testing is what we look for: market efficiency or unbiasedness. And then we have anomalies that occur in the betting market. So we do see that many people, if we have a favorite long shot bias, and we also have what we call a reverse favorite long shot bias. So these biases, I would say, are not very well titled. A favorite long shot bias basically indicates that people overbet the favorite, and the underdog or the long shot is the better bet. That if you bet them on average, they will give you a higher return. Of course, we have also the reverse favorite long shot bias, which is that the long shot is too much, is bet too much, and the favorite actually yields a higher profit. We also have discussion, you see it in financial markets, the hot hand, that if a team's doing really well, people tend to overbet that favorite, just like a stock that's doing really well, really hot, people tend to buy it at higher prices. Then we have a home bias, just like we see domestically in financial markets. People tend to buy stocks that are familiar to them or geographically very close to them. So there's this home bias, right? You see that a lot of owners of stocks tend to be within a certain radius of the headquarters very commonly. Where in sports betting, we see a lot of home bias that people tend to bet for their home team, right? And we also see, I mentioned here, the over bias, which is on our total line. People tend to bet the over line more commonly because people like to see scoring. I apologize. Sorry about that. I apologize. So here I show a little bit on the betting news in the United States. That in the United States, you can see that there's been much more progress on states that are legalizing betting. Outside the United States, it sounds ridiculous because you guys go betting like you go to the grocery store in many countries, right? There's literally a store where you bet in. The United States doesn't quite work like that. Usually it's either run by the state, so kind of where you buy lottery tickets is where you can make your bets, or you can do it at casinos, or potentially some states have legalized online betting. Many have not legalized online betting. There's a lot of things that go into this. Just to kind of highlight, in the United States, there's now 36 states and the District of Columbia that have legalized betting. And I went to the American Gambling Association to kind of highlight the amount or the size of the market in the United States, right? Americans legally wager $73 billion. for the first 10 months of 22 of last year. And the bookmakers made about $5.77 million, while the federal government is making about $1.3 billion. Right? So it has become, especially in the United States, a very large industry, considering that it used to be restricted. There obviously is more information worldwide, and in some cases it's hard to get it because the information isn't being collected or information flow isn't being accurately provided. Even in the United States, this is all the legal betting that has been done, right? Okay. With that, that's kind of the short flow. I apologize for the interruptions. You can see working at home at times, no matter what, you get interrupted. I apologize for those. Hopefully you found this informative. Hopefully I didn't go too long over my presentation time.
No, this was perfect, Jason. Thank you for doing this. Extremely insightful. Just gonna do a quick check if my video is visible as well. Great. So I do see some questions have come in the Q&A box. So I'm gonna pick up some of those questions. I'm gonna do that now. But let me also tell you, those of you who have been in the room or joined in a little later, by attending this session, you have become eligible for an application fee waiver from St. John's University. I am going to have Marissa talk here. Marissa, share about how you can access that application fee waiver. But before I do that, let me quickly take a few questions from the audience. And those of you who have already asked the question, if you want to upvote questions asked by others or give us an indication, that would be great. Let me take some questions now. So, Jason, the very first question is from someone called SK, who's trying to navigate the sports betting markets and wants to maximize his or her chances of success in making a profit. Is there a shortcut to really making money in the sports betting industry?
So I feel like, right, there's no like trade secret that anyone has that can tell you how to make money, right? I've actually seen many professionals do presentations and they show you when they win, a huge payout, but they don't show you all their losses, right? They don't open their books to you, right? There's actually a great show on HBO. Actually, it's not HBO, it might be Showtime, called Action, that I would recommend for those that are interested. They follow 5 professionals. And it's really interesting. They're, trying to look, I think the more analytics that you can do to back your wager, the better it is, obviously, right? By just saying, oh, I like Team X, I think they're going to win, is as good as a guess as anybody, right? But the more that you can dig in and do the analysis, the more information you have, the more accurate your outcome is likely to be.
All right. So it's not just a game of chance, but of course, analytics and research goes behind it. That's why there's pseudo betting apps in India, which basically ask you to build a dream team, and that's how you bet through that dream team by building that team. So there's some skill involved in that, but no shortcut over there. Great. The next question that I want to take up is from someone called Manya Singh, and she's asking that in sports betting and casinos, there is a saying that the house always wins. How can sports betting punters and financial market investors combat this theory? How do they make that they have a better chance of winning than the agent or the booker or the bookie?
Right. So look at it this way, right? In casinos, right? If you count cards, you can bring your odds up, right? The casino doesn't like you counting cards, right? And obviously they can try to track you more easily by seeing your trading strategy or betting on the cards. It's harder to track people on betting. So the true professionals usually have what we call runners. They don't do it. They have other people that they pay to go into the different casinos and bet on their behalf. But the best way to it is by analysis, right? How do you determine what stocks are good stocks is by analysis, right? It's the same thing in the betting markets, right? You've got to do the analysis and truthfully increase your odds of being right. Right? That's the best way to do it. And of course, there's no like way to guarantee it. I did know someone asked here about an arbitrage betting, right? Arbitrage in any market is a risk-free, like you're guaranteed to make a profit. I start with nothing and I end up with something. As I tell my students, the first thing you do when you find that is you immediately call me, right? Because I want to get that in on that too. Um, Arbitrages shouldn't exist, and if they do exist, they should only exist for a short second and then go away. Otherwise, the market's not efficient.
True. Yep, that was the question. What about arbitrage betting? Why are these betting companies always blocking their account when you win continuously? Okay. So I think what I'm realizing is a lot of people want to expert opinion on how they can maximize their chances of winning when they are betting. So Manya Singh is sharing uh, her or his strategy on what she uses for betting in soccer and what she can do to maximize her chances of winning. I'm not going to take up that question, but just putting it out there that people want your expert opinion on this. Jason, it's possible you may get a lot of LinkedIn requests and email requests to
Yeah,
advise
that's fine.
people how they can really win in sports betting.
Unfortunately, I don't have the trade secrets. As I tell my students, if I knew how to do that, I wouldn't be standing in front of you. Right? I'd be sitting on a beach somewhere. But with that said, it's coming up with a strategy or an analysis that works. Right? That's of course the most important thing.
Okay.
And hopefully you have fun doing it.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure they do. But let me take one last question, and this is around government policies around betting. So, there's a strong case across the world where people are saying that sports betting should be legalized. But if that happens, doesn't it risk that a lot more people participate in it, get addicted to it, and lose their shirts in it, kind of thing? And for governments, it can be a source of tax money by taxing the betting companies or any transaction. So is it the right thing morally or logically the right thing for governments to be legalizing sports betting or not? Any opinions or any thoughts around that?
So my argument to this is in most countries, right, we have a few exceptions. Alcohol is legal and we have alcoholics, right? Is it fair that government allows people to drink alcohol? Well, that people have a problem with it, right? Just like people have a problem with gambling. It's an addiction, right? Does that mean that everyone else shouldn't be allowed to do it? Right? I'm not condoning that it should be legal across the world. I do lean towards that it makes sense. There's also the bigger risk of corruption, but then there's more eyes on the game, right? So there's more policing arguably involved. My argument is just because there's some people that have an addiction isn't a reason to make it illegal. If that was the case, then we shouldn't have state lotteries. We shouldn't have alcohol, right? Should we have candy? There's many people that have an addiction to candy, and right, they become significantly obese, right? Well, we could fix that. We could get rid of all candy, right? We only allowed to eat healthy things, right? This can be argued for everything. And I think it's a flawed argument of why gambling shouldn't be allowed, especially in almost all the world. It's an issue of gambling on sports versus gambling on a stock, right? Stocks, yes, tend to move up in price over time, but you can make bets on the short term about what's going to happen to a stock going up or down. In the general sense, you're gambling still, right? So why are we allowing that to be okay? But if a person thinks that they really know what's going to happen in a sporting event, they can't use that information.
Very interesting. I'm going to take the last question, which has actually come in the chat. I usually don't take questions from the chat, but this is an extremely interesting question. This is around technology and data analytics changing the world of sports betting. Earlier, humans had to keep track of winning, do the odds analysis and everything. But with technology, this can be a really game changer, and sports betting can become much more advanced by the use of data analytics. Are you seeing that happening, Jason? Any recent
So
trends where data analytics has been used extensively in sports betting?
I didn't, sorry, I didn't quite catch or hear you. What was the question?
The question is around the role of technology and data analytics
Okay.
revolutionizing the world of sports betting.
Oh, I think technology is a complete game changer in the sports betting market. It's interesting because it's twofold in that it's helped the market and it's probably hurting at the same time. But it's just like financial markets, right? Financial markets are gaining more information through the movement of technology, but there's also the double-edged sword of technology. And you hear about many people with trading want to be geographically closer to the trading so that the technology, the speed of the transactions can get through faster. In betting markets, we now see betting live, right? People can bet live and the lines move. It's amazing. If you watch a sporting event, you can know what's going to happen before you watch it on TV, while you watch on TV by just looking at the betting line on your phone, because your TV is probably about 4 to 5 seconds at least delayed. And that line moves fast enough that you see the line move before the actual outcome occurs, right? So the technology is there to help the bettors offer all these new lines. But yes, it's a double-edged sword in that now it's also all this information that people have to utilize this technology to run, greater algorithms to find a better model and beat the system, right? So while the bettors have that information, so do the bookmakers. And don't think the bookmakers aren't using it themselves, right? There's all these aspects. And as I always say, in my class, I teach behavioral finance. It's human behavior. You can't model human behavior. As good as a model gets, you can never get a perfect model because you can't model how we behave, right? So while we might think that this is going to happen, humans play a large part in the pricing. And as a result, how we buy and sell is unpredictable.
Okay. I was actually going to ask you this, which particular course do you teach? So you said behavioral finance. Do you teach?
I teach behavioral finance. I teach derivatives. I also teach foundations.
Okay. And this is at the MBA level or at the business master's level as well?
I teach undergrad and masters.
Okay. Interesting. Great. So, Jason, thank you for that. I do want to bring in Marissa into this session because we spoke about the 100% scholarships that St. John's has instituted. Some of the attendees from this session would become eligible for that and the application fee waivers as well. So I do want to bring in Marissa into the conversation over here. While I hand over the floor to Marissa and we'll talk about the application process, all of that, what I quickly want to do is run our second poll for the evening. So to the audience, the poll is live on the screen right now. The question is, are you actively looking to pursue a master's or an MBA program in 2024? You can read it. It could be general master's or a business master's and an MBA program in 2024. I see the responses coming in. Around 40 odd people have responded. I'm going to let the people continue responding while I talk about I'm gonna post a link to the scholarships that you can apply for the St. John scholarships, the 300% scholarships which are available. I'm posting a link to that in the chat window. So keep those responses coming in the polls and let me share the link to the St. John scholarships that you can apply for. Great. With that, I'm also going to end the poll and share the results quickly. So around 73% of those who responded to the poll said yes, they are actively looking to pursue a master's and MBA program in 2024. 16% are fence sitters, currently undecided, possibly funding, or the options to evaluate could be a bottleneck for them. And there are 11% who are very sure that they are not looking to pursue a master's in 2024. At least they may look at it sometime later in their life. Great. With that, let me hand over the floor to Marissa. I've already posted a link to the Seed Scholarships Fund for St. John. There are 3 exclusive scholarships which are on offer. And I'm going to let Marissa talk about how you can apply to St. John's, the school, the programs, and then also talk about how you can avail the application fee waiver since you have attended this particular session. With that, over to you.
Thank you so much, Sanjay. And also thank you, Dr. Berkowitz. That was an amazing presentation. And I'm so excited to be with you all today. So my name is Marissa Alperin. I'm the Associate Director of Graduate Admission at St. John's University. So I help work and collaborate with 6 of our colleges on campus, including the Peter J. Tobin College of Business. So just to go over why Tobin, we have small class sizes, which really makes an intimate atmosphere with the student. So you get that really hands-on faculty to student ratio, which is wonderful. So if you ever have questions for a faculty member, you can go during office hours, you can visit a faculty member, and there's also a lot of events for you to network. So that's a wonderful opportunity for our students to collaborate and really get hands-on experience within the field they're looking for. We are also ranked number 4 by Fortune for the best online MBA program. And of course, we have some other additional rankings for our MS programs as well. So if you are interested in learning a little bit more about those rankings and about the acceptance rate, we're happy to send you that data. So you can always stay connected with us. Our email address is tobingradnyc@stjohns.edu, and we're happy to provide you with that information. We also do have an incredible network of 194,000 alumni. So they really stay connected with our students, and they help and come to a lot of our events as well. We do typically have a few throughout the semester, whether it be at our Greenberg School of Risk Management or the Queens campus, which is Bent Hall. We are accredited by AACSB, so we're really happy to have that recognition. So campus locations. As I mentioned before, excuse me, my slides are going fast. We do have a Manhattan campus, so the Greenberg School of Risk Management. So that is located in Astor Place, which is really close to the financial district of the world. So in New York City. We also have our Queens location, which is the epicenter of St. John's University. So you'll find a lot of students that are currently taking classes there. And of course, you have access to all those student clubs and activities on campus. We have over 200 clubs on campus too that you can get involved in. So it's a really wonderful opportunity for our students. And of course, we do have online programs. We also have the option of doing some hybrid programs where you can take courses at our Queens campus, the Manhattan campus, as well as online. So it really depends on the program you're looking for and the opportunities available for those. With that being said, as I mentioned before, we have a building called the Greenberg School of Risk Management. This is our Manhattan campus. I know a lot of you had mentioned that you have an interest in investment. So this is a really good opportunity for you to look into investment, insurance. We have a wonderful library on this campus. And of course, we have tons of scholarship opportunities with all of our programs, but we do have a couple of programs such as the Lottie Fellowship and our Promise Scholarship, which would be admissible to some of these programs. Our application requirements. It takes about 5 minutes to submit your application. So for submitting your application today, you would automatically be considered for an application fee waiver. So that is something to keep in mind. Of course, if you don't see that after the initial submission, please always send us an email at tobingradnyc@stjohns.edu, and we're happy to look into it for you. With that being said, all of our School of Business programs only require 1 letter of recommendation. We always recommend this come from a professor or someone that can highlight your professional experience. We also ask for a robust resume. So typically that's going to be 1 page, and it's going to explain your longevity of working in a specific industry. And it's also going to express any activities you did within the business realm or anything that you really think could enhance your application. We do ask for a statement of professional goals. This is typically 300 to 500 words about your interest in the program, why you would be a good fit for St. John's University, and any additional materials that you would like to include or enhance in your application. So for example, if you decided to take a break from school, you worked in the field for 2 years, this would be a perfect opportunity to explain that in your statement of goals. And of course, that's something we look for. You do not have to be a continuing student when applying. You can come back after the work industry and apply for one of our programs. We have a lot of flexibility with that. We do also have an optional GMAT or GRE requirement. You do not need to submit one at this time. If you would like to enhance your application, you can absolutely submit one. We just ask that it's within 5 years of your start term. And then, of course, transcripts from all institutions attended. If you did attend an international institution, we are going to ask for NACCE's foreign transcript evaluation, and this will give us a course-by-course breakdown as well as your US GPA equivalency. Additionally, we have a TOEFL, IELTS, Duolingo, or PTE requirement. We do require that it's taken within 2 years of your start term. We do have some exemptions as well for that. So if you have any questions about that breakdown, please feel free to reach out to us. Our MBA program. So currently we have many concentrations. We have one MBA program with 17 concentrations, some of which have that flexibility again to do hybrid on our Queens campus or the Manhattan campus. We also have an MBA program specific to our accounting program, and as well we have a STEM MBA concentration, which means you're focusing on a 45 credit program that's going to be 2 STEM designated courses out of 6. With that being said, for the MBA program, typically it's going to be 36 credits, and the main difference between the MBA and MS is the MBA is going to be a broad degree. So you're going to have balance in finance, marketing, management, and then you're going to take 9 credits, which is 3 courses in your specific concentration. For the MBA in accounting, you're looking at 57 credits, so it's a little bit more of a robust program just to get you CPA aligned. And then the STEM MBA, as mentioned before, you're picking 2 concentrations, which is why it's 45 credits. And as mentioned before, these are the concentrations you can pick from: business analytics, information systems, finance, financial technology, risk management, and sustainability. Please note that not all concentrations are available at one campus. So if you're applying for risk management, that's a Manhattan eligible campus. If you're picking business analytics, you're going to pick either online or Queens. So that's just an example. And then, of course, we have a numerous amount of MS programs as well. So again, the main difference between the MBA and MS is the MS is going to be more of a niche program. So if you want to focus on taxation, the majority of your classes are going to be within taxation, whereas when you're doing the MBA, you have more of that broad degree. So again, you're focusing on marketing, management, finance, accounting, things that make up the core of that curriculum. Advanced certificates, we also have opportunities to participate in that. Currently we have 6 advanced certificates with our new Enterprise Risk Management Advanced Certificate. People who usually participate in advanced certificate programs are returning from working, so being in the working industry, or they want to take this program first before switching to an MBA or MS program. If you decide to switch, of course, you would have to complete another application. With that being said, we have the wonderful opportunity of doing global destination courses. What this is about is the student has a course on campus, and then for around 1 to 2 weeks, they're in a global destination. So that could be anywhere from Brazil, Canada, Chile, Ireland, Italy, and they work with top industries in the world. And it's really a wonderful opportunity for students on the master's level who kind of want to get that study abroad experience. We also have an excellent career development team who is constantly in contact with our current students, giving internship and job opportunities to students. We do have a plethora of graduate assistantships available, Dean scholarships, the Promise Scholarship, a Lottie Scholarship, and also merit and professional scholarships. The beauty of the merit and professional scholarships is you're automatically considered for those within your admission letter. So if you are accepted into St. John's University, in your letter, you will see if you're admissible for those scholarships. You do have a separate application for the Lobby Fellowship, and the Promise Scholarship, you would also receive that when you're applying. But these are really good opportunities to help fund your education. Additionally, as Sanjay has mentioned, we do have 3 awards that are being given to seed recipients. So that is another opportunity to look into. If you are interested in a graduate assistantship, please note that it pays partial to full tuition as well. And in return, you're given 20 hours of work a week to a department, and you're also getting a stipend. So wonderful opportunities for you in terms of funding, even as an international student. And if you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to tobingrad@stjohns.edu, or you can give us a phone call at 718-990-1345. Keep in mind, we are doing some recruitment opportunities soon, and I think Sanjay is going to talk about one of the upcoming exciting opportunities we have for students. But always stay in contact. We have numerous events coming up, and on December 5th, we actually have an open house with St. John's University for our School of Business.
Great. Thanks, Marissa. Thanks for that. I am going to add myself to the spotlight as well and bring in Dr. Jason as well. Great. So the audience, the floor is still open. You can keep asking your questions. I am going to talk about that amazing opportunity that Marissa mentioned. So those of you who are not aware of this, we have our business school festival events happening across Africa in early December. We are going to be in 5 cities across 4 countries. So we are going to be in Lagos and Abuja in Nigeria. We are going to be in Accra, Ghana. We are going to be in Nairobi, Kenya. And we are going to be in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Besides St. John's, there are a number of other US business schools and Canadian business schools traveling with us for these events. If any of you are in these particular cities, I am going to post registration links for these respective events in the chat box for right now. So if you are either in Lagos, Abuja, Accra, Nairobi, or Addis Ababa, you can click on the links given in the chat window by me and register for these events. As mentioned, there are a number of US business schools coming for this. So there's Emory, George Washington School of Business, St. John's University, University of San Francisco, Pepperdine, Grazadio, and more. And then there are Canadian business schools like Rotman and Schulich coming as well. So if as I said, if you're in any of these cities, do register, come for these events. You'll get a chance to meet people like Marissa. So I know Marissa is not herself traveling for these events. She was in India in August with us for such events, but her colleague is traveling over there, and you'll get a chance to meet him and other people from the admissions industry and understand more about the programs that the school offers, secure application fee waivers, become eligible for special scholarships, and get started on your higher studies plan. With that, let me continue taking some more questions. And if you have any more questions around admission criteria or so on and so forth, please post them in the Q&A box. It's very difficult for us to keep track of what you post in the chat window. So please post them in the Q&A box. With that, one question. Okay, let me take this over here. So Marissa, you mentioned that course by course evaluation of transcripts is necessary for St. John's, but this can be a little expensive as well. So are there any alternatives to that, or is it a mandatory requirement for admissions to all St. John's programs?
That's a great question. So it's only required for international schools that you have attended. However, we do have an expedited and discounted rate with SpanTrans. So if you are looking to get a more affordable option, please reach out to us. We actually have a spreadsheet of the cost of every single foreign transcript evaluation to make sure we can be as accommodating as possible for students. Unfortunately, it is required, but we're happy to look into your individual case and determine what's needed from there.
Perfect. So that's your answer. Reach out to the school, reach out to Marissa's team, and they can clarify this for you. And possibly you can get a discounted evaluation from SpanTran if I get this correct. Great. Keep those questions coming. I know there are a number of questions that have come in the chat window. My only request is please post them in the Q&A box. It becomes much easier for me to moderate the Q&A if you post them in the Q&A box. Also, you can upvote questions asked by others. Makes it easier to identify the important questions. Marissa, the next question which I have is from Augustine, who is asking, is St. John's MBA program STEM designated?
Yes, so we do have the STEM MBA, and we also have specific concentrations that are STEM designated. So if you'd like to reach out to us, or if you want to say your program, I'm happy to tell you if it's STEM eligible.
All right. Let me twist this question around and ask you, are there any programs that the Dobbin College of Business offers which are not STEM designated?
Yes, there are. So for example, if you're doing a marketing program, that's not going to be STEM designated. But if you are doing something in risk management, if you're doing finance, if you're doing actuarial science, those are all going to be STEM designated. So it really depends on the program you're looking for.
And GMAT and GRE are optional, right?
Correct, yes, for all of our programs.
Okay. In case a student, irrespective, does decide to submit a GMAT or GRE score, then any implications of that? So for example, when you say optional, would you not look at the scores at all? Or if someone submits the score, would you look at it and it would play a role in the decision making?
Great question. So once you submit a GRE or GMAT, we do put that into consideration in your application. So it will automatically be considered. If you do not provide it, of course, we won't consider that as a component of your application. But once it is submitted, we will consider that in the holistic approach.
All right. So that's great tip for the attendees. If you don't have a strong score, then possibly it's not a great idea to be submitting it along with the application, because once you submit it, they can't unsee it, and it would play a role in the decision making. Dr. Berkowitz, I do want to bring you in and ask you a question over here. A lot of our attendees are from an engineering background. Engineering is a dominant field in India. A lot of people end up pursuing engineering at the undergraduate level, but then want to transition into industries like finance, investment banking, risk management, so on and so forth. So any advice or any tips that you can give to such engineering background students who want to do a transition to the world of finance?
So I was reading a few people's comments. So I think in finance, it's not uncommon to see people with an engineering or even like a physics background. The best way to make the transition probably is to pursue a master's degree, right? An MS, we offer an MS in finance. Other schools also offer it. I'm not obviously saying we're the only ones, but of course, an MS in finance, I think, is one of the best ways to show and make the switch, right? You're gonna learn the finance now and the basic finance that you might not have been exposed to, or maybe some of it you know, but you don't know all of it. And this will help you, and it'll send the signal to the market that you're trying to make this switch, right? I think it's a great way to try to do that. I also would recommend you might have to take an internship at a lower level, but internships are a great way to also show the transition as well.
And would you recommend any of them to, before coming into the master's program, look at doing something like a CFA level 1, or any courses that you can online so as to be better prepared for a master's in finance?
So actually, I wouldn't say that's even required, because, like, for example, ours and many schools masters are aligned with the CFA. So we are going to actually help you and teach you the material for CFA level 1 and 2, and a large part of 3 as well.
Okay, great. So Marissa, there's a question. So this is a question around the programs offered. So I do have a list of programs that St. John's offer, for the benefit of the audience. I'm going to post that link in the chat window as well. But this question is specifically around project management. So do you have any courses around project management?
Absolutely. So a lot of our MBA programs also incorporate that. So I would say if you're looking into project management, a good MBA to look into might be strategic management, but we do offer a general class in project management. So if you want to send us an email, I'm happy to send you more information about that course.
Great. And in the chat window, for the benefit of the audience, I'm just posting a link to the programs offered by the Peter J. Tobin College of Business. So all the masters and MBA programs are available over there for your ready reference. I'm going to take the last few questions. We are significantly over time in today's session, but there's still close to 200 people. So that, that's a testament to what the amount of interest that people have in this particular topic. So I'm just going to take 1 or 2 last few questions and see if we can clarify any important doubts that people may have. Just give me 1 second. So, Dr. Berkowitz, there's one request that has come earlier, which was around if you can share the presentation that you're showing. If you're comfortable doing that, you can send that to us and we can share it with the audience. If not, then to the audience, this session, the recording of this session is going to be available on Seed's YouTube channel by tomorrow. So if you have missed any important points of this presentation, you can watch it on our YouTube channel as well. Great. The last question which I want to take up, and this is Marissa around fintech, right? So the traditional masters in finance, yes, but for someone who's looking to, or Dr. Jason, if you want to come into this one as well, it would be great. If someone is looking to build a career in the new age world of fintech as such, then would you recommend a master's in finance or some other program that can better prepare them for a career in the world of technology and finance combined?
So our MSF actually has a fintech track. I definitely think fintech is, I guess, the new hot topic these days. And our department is very much trying to stay on the cutting edge of it. Not every school has a fintech program. We do have an MSF track with the FinTech. We also have the MBA with the FinTech. With that said, we also just started our undergrad. We're hoping to do it with our grad. We have so many schools have an investment fund. We have investment for the stocks. We just started, I don't know of another school that we have what we call a blockchain fund. It's a crypto investment fund. We just started it a year ago for undergrad. We are trying to get a push from our department and to get an offering for the grad program as well, so that the students are actually managing a portfolio of cryptocurrencies.
All right, interesting. So a lot of cutting edge programs and new age options coming over there. With that, I want to take the permission to wrap up this session. I know there were some questions which I'm leaving unanswered. So there was a question around career services and career outcomes. This was asked a couple of times in the chat and in Q&A. I'm taking the liberty to post a link to St. John's career outcome site link. You have statistics available over there on the latest employment trends that St. John's graduate and undergraduate students have seen as such. So you can find a lot of details over there. And of course, you can find the list of recruiters. I see Amazon, Citigroup, CVS, Ernst & Young, JetBlue, JP Morgan, KPMG, all recruiting at St. John's and many more like them. With that, I want to take Marissa's and Dr. Jason's permission to wrap up this session. We are significantly over time, unfortunately. But thank you, Dr. Berkowitz. Thank you for taking out the time to do this session. Your presentation was extremely insightful. I personally enjoyed it. I'm not a betting person, but really enjoyed getting the insights. I'm sure the audience did as well. And thank you to you as well, Marissa, for all the program-related and admissions-related information, plus the application fee waivers and the special scholarships. I want to reiterate for the audience, all those attendees, you are eligible for an application fee waiver, plus eligible for the 3 full scholarships that St. John's has committed to the Seed Scholarship Fund. All those links have already been sent to you. If not, you'll receive them over WhatsApp and email communication from us subsequently to this session. Make the most of those and all the best. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
You too.